Beis. Page Kuf Beis. So the second section is Savlanut Mishtalanas. Adam Balamuna. Sheroeh Shelo Holech Lo. Mahu Omer. So a person who possesses emunah and he sees that life is not progressing the way that he wants it, what does he say? I mean, how does he react to the reality that life is not going as planned? He says, Kacha Hashem Rotze. His response is, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. Hakol Tova, all is for good. V'hu oseh es mashu yachal lasos b'simcha b'tuv levav. And he does whatever he can with simcha and with gladness of heart. V'lo ozev es haratzonos v'es ha'ashtadlos shu yachal lasos. V'chol shekin shu sameach ba'asher sach hakol holich lo tov. So the person who possesses emunah, again, when he sees that things aren't going his way, his response is, Kacha Hashem Rotze. This is what the Ribono Shel Olam wants. And ultimately, because he recognizes that this is what the Ribono Shel Olam wants, he's able to come to the level where he accepts it b'simcha and b'tuv levav. And all the more so, if everything goes according, quote unquote, to plan, if everything goes in accordance to what it is that he wants, then of course he has the ability to accept that l'tova and b'simcha as well. Kirak adam ba'al emunah merutzak tamid nechayev shezeh gan ha'iden ba'olam hazeh. This is such a profound statement, because only a person who has emunah is able to find joy and able to find happiness, and his merutza is constantly in an accepting state of his life. Life is able to be Gan Eden while living in this world. And as Rabbi said, that if a person doesn't have emunah, then he doesn't. Let's work in the reverse. A person doesn't have emunah, therefore he doesn't necessarily subscribe to the idea that all of the events that occur to him in his life are from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If that's the case, then when things don't go well, which is inevitable, meaning it happens for all of us at different times, at different intervals, different frequencies, then life becomes Gehenna. But at the end of the day, if I accept that all this from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then I'm able to work on myself to get to the level where I'm able to mekabel everything that occurs to me b'simcha. And then if I'm able to believe that everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then I'm able to ultimately find the happiness and find the joy in all of the events of my life. And life could become Gan Eden even in this world. Ulehefech hagehenim hayochid b'chayim zehargashas hamarirus sheish la'adam. And I'm also on the flip side, when a person feels bitter about life and a person feels bitter about himself, so the mice of life can become Gehenna. As we all know, we all have those periods where we don't feel good about the way things are going, about ourselves, about our circumstances, and so things feel like Gehenna. Shumemurmar ve'ina marutza mechayev. Nimsa emuna shel ha'adam hu be'atzmo gam ha'onesh shelo. This is actually a very profound statement. Therefore, the Mechaber says it turns out that the lack of emunah, if a person lacks emunah, the lack of emunah in and of itself is the onesh. In other words, like we believe this goes back to you. We saw about this on Shabbos a little bit. So we believe in a very kind and loving God. Yet we believe every action we do has a repercussion. Everything we do, big and small, has a repercussion. There's no act that goes unnoticed by the Ribono Shel Olam. So the Mechaber says over here, so meaning if I do an Aveira, so there's a punishment, there's an onesh. I could do tshuva for it, I could mitigate the punishment. There are a variety of different things I can do, but l'maisa, there is an onesh for Aveiros. So the Mechaber says something amazing. He says, but sometimes we create our own shin. Sometimes we create our own punishments. What do I mean by that? So the Mechaber says that if I don't work on myself to lead a life of emunah, and the absence of emunah sometimes creates a bitterness and a sadness in life, and that bitterness and sadness, that's the greatest punishment. That in and of itself is the onesh. He goes on, Mesupar al harav hamaforsam harav menachem rikinati. So he speaks about Rav Menachem Rekanati. Sha'ad gil shmonim haya socher v'lo Allah v'yado gilmod Torah. So we'll say, so we have the parish of Rav Menachem Rekanati. Interestingly enough, we normally So the dates generally that align with Rabbi Nachman Rekinati are he lived in Italy. He was generally we assume he lived from like 1250 to 1310. So the Mechaber here has him at 80 years old. So it's possible that maybe the dates that I have are not the correct dates. The point over here of the stories you're going to see is the following. Shi'ad gil shmonim haya sochar below Allah biyad motor. So we have, for example, he wrote certain works on Kabbalah. He wrote the Perish on Chumash, which is exceptionally profound. So the Mechaber says over here that Rabbi Nachman Rekinati, until the age of 80, was a merchant. Below Allah biyado lilmod Torah. And he wasn't able to learn. Now, what does he wasn't able to learn? Means he wasn't able to devote himself fully to learning. Ach, lamros hakol hulo azav l'rega return lilmod Torah. But despite the fact that this was the reality, he never for a moment gave up on his desire to constantly learn Torah. And throughout his entire life, even though again he was a successful merchant, all he wanted was to be able to sit and to apply himself to learning Torah. And despite the fact that decades went by and that dream remained unrealized, he never gave it up. He never gave it up. He never stopped yearning. When will I get to sit and learn? Last paragraph, page Kuf Beis. Bigil shmonim chalam sheba ilav tzadik v'nasan lo lishtos mekavia shaviyada. At the age of 80, he had a dream, and in the dream there was a tzaddik who came to him. Doesn't say the tzaddik was, and gave him to drink from his goblet, from his cup. The kasher v'lis ora mishnaso. Nochach lada'as shekala Torah guluya lefanov. So ultimately, again, when he woke up with a new awareness, a new understanding of Torah, a recognition that all of Torah was open to him, revealed to him. Get ready for this. Va'ad gil shmonim ushtayim hispik lichtov ka'arboim svarim. And in 2 years, between 80 and 82, when he died, he wrote 40 svarim. 40 svarim within 2 years. Top of page Kuf Gimel. I will say, now what's the point of this story? I mean, it's a great story. But what's the point of the story? The point I will say is this goes back to, like, remember the chassid who became the bank teller, right? This goes back to this dynamic that ultimately, again, sometimes the circumstances of our lives are not what we want. I'll say, rarely is there a person whose circumstances, whose reality of circumstances align exactly with his desired circumstances. All of us have that little bit of disparity between the life that we have and the life that we want. That's just the nature. It's the nature of existence. I'll say, by the way, that's often because we think we know the life that we want. Right? We often think we know the life that we should have, but that's something that we conceive ourselves. That's great. Nevertheless, we often have this disparity between the life that we want and the life that we have. How do you deal with that disparity? So the Mechaber says, the Bava Basra says, Kach Hashem rotzeh. The life that I have, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants for me. So because this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me, and it's often HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm mekabel it b'simcha. And I've also the ability to be mekabel. The life that I have b'simcha allows me to live in Gan Eden, even in Olam Hazeh. Masha'en king. And if I go ahead and the disparity between the life that I want and the life that I have are too great, and I can't reconcile myself, I can't accept it, so I don't accept that Kach Hashem wrote it, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. So I'm saying in that case again, life becomes Gehenna. Then life becomes Gehenna. And that's the choice. The Mechaber says that's I say simple choice, but as we all know, there's nothing simple about it. It's just simple to say it. But this is the profound choice we have in life. You can go ahead and not accept the reality of your circumstances and go ahead and live a life of Gehenna. Or you could go ahead and say, Kach Hashem rotzeh, reconcile myself to these are my circumstances for now. I'm not saying they can't change. I'm not saying I'm not going to change. I'm not saying I'm not going to try to change them. But this is where it is right now. How do I maximize it? And ultimately, by recognizing Kach Hashem rotzeh, I can live in Gan Eden. Top of Kuf Gimel. Kasher Adam Simcha. So now we're transitioning to the third level of Amun, as you're going to see. Kasher Adam Simcha, when a person is in a state of Simcha, so when a person is in a state of Simcha, he's able to reach the third level of Emunah. What's the third level of Emunah? Ki al yedei simcha Mocho meshuchrar lechapis ulahavin nachon es hameser shal Hashem mahu meramizlo ulanu mechavinoso. So we're going to see, the first. So we've done so far the first two levels of HaKadosh, of Emunah. The first level being everything is from Hashem. The second level being the ability to accept the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha, with happiness. And now the third level is going to be figuring out how to maximize my circumstances, recognizing that any situation in which I am in, ultimately, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving me some kind of message. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving me some kind of mission, and it's my job to figure out what I'm supposed to do with these circumstances. So again, but it's only once I have simcha. It's only once I have simcha, then I'm able to figure out what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu hinting to me, what's the hidden message, and to where is HaKadosh Baruch Hu directing me. My heart is open to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I can ask the Baruch Hu, tell me, what is it that you need me to do now? And to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help me with the changes that I have to make. Second paragraph. Said all of these details. Said all of these particular details. How to go ahead and understand the messages that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving me, the embedded messages in my circumstances. How to go to be mis'ar order, how to awaken myself, and how to fix that which needs to be fixed. Called Elu Shayochim Heim Shlishis Shala Emunah. We'll say all of these are related to the third level of Emunah. The Efshar LaAdam Sheyav or LaMadrega Shlishis, the Vishaochis Hate of LaMadrega Hashida. So we'll say this in general is a very important yisod. It is difficult to go ahead and reach the third level, which we'll say is an important yisod in life. You can't reach the third level, second level. You can't go ahead and reach the level of figuring out or finding out the deeper meaning in your circumstances if you are not first able to makabel those circumstances with a state of simcha. We'll say page Kuf Gimel, third paragraph. Lochein, chashav liskar. Therefore, it is important to remember the fneisha adam over the madrega hashlishis umaschil lachshov ma'alav la'asos ba'olam hazeh. I will say before a person gets to the third level of emunah, that third level of emunah where a person reminds himself that his life in this world is purposeful, his life in this world is meaningful. He is here to accomplish something. Before I get to that particular level, Yilmad v'yikbeh heitiv b'libo esamuna shakol tova. He has to learn and to reinforce the important level of emunah that everything is for good. V'im yavo lo nisayo, and if a particular challenge comes up, yikablo bi'ava, I have to be makabel. I have to accept that challenge with love. V'rak achar kach yuchal lageshes l'shlav haba lahavin mahu hameser. I will say only after I'm able to work on myself to makabel things bi'ava, then I could try to figure out what is the message. How do I maximize the circumstances? Last paragraph of Osai page Kuf Gimel. Chashuv ma'od sha'adam yiskar klal zeh. Osai, it's very important that a person remembers this principle. Because as long as I am not within myself the belief that everything is for good, you can't skip to stage 3 before you master stage 2. So if stage 2 is the ability to say Kacha Hashem Rotza, this is where HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. And be makabel, it be ahava. If I'm not makabel, my circumstances be ahava, I can't maximize those circumstances. It's a very intuitive, it's a logical argument. I can't maximize the current reality I have if I'm not accepting of that reality that it's somehow HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kacha Hashem Rotza, and somehow it's Latova. He goes on, he says, until I'm able to makabel my circumstances bi'ava, I can't use lashon of aser, which is very strong. I'm not allowed to start trying to figure out how to maximize those circumstances, how to understand those circumstances until I'm makabel those circumstances. Because if I begin to try to understand what it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to teach me through my circumstances, without the emunah that all is for good, hurak yekalkel od yoser. A person messes himself up further, meaning it's easy to get messed up in life, especially again hashkafically, philosophically, right, when looking at life. Therefore, again, in order to go ahead and be a productive individual, one requires these necessary sequential steps. And if you break the sequence the Mechaber posits, then ultimately, again, it leads to a skewed view on life, which leads to a skewed view on the self. Because without the emunah that engenders proper simcha in life, it is impossible for a person to understand the totality of his circumstances and be able to maximize them. Kimuva sherak kasher adam sameach u'mishuchrar milachtzim u'midagos. Because there's something amazing when a person is able to reach the level, which is our second level of emunah, the level what we'll call kach Hashem rotzeh. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. And I am mekabel these circumstances. Therefore, be ahava. It's only once I get to that level that a person will say, then what happens? Life becomes, as the Mechaber said, life can become like Gan Eden. When life becomes like Gan Eden, a person need not be plagued by worries and by self-doubt. Rak az yochol mochol lif'ol b'chavshius. He'll say, only once I free myself of worry and self-doubt is my mind free. And it's only once my mind is free that I have the ability to contemplate my life, contemplate my circumstances, and to come to true Yishuv Hadas, inner equilibrium, but more than inner equilibrium, the ability to contemplate my circumstances and maximize my circumstances. So ultimately, again, I will say, if you look, we'll just do one more paragraph. Just take a look at the page Kuftal, then we'll stop for today. He says, so the maskana, the conclusion that we reach from our words, is when a person has the second level of emunah, he lives with the emunah that all is for good, and he thanks HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the circumstances. He said, even though my life is not exactly where I want it to be, but I recognize Kacha Hashem Rotzeh, therefore I accept it. I give thanks. Let's say a person lives a beautiful life. You could live a beautiful life even if your circumstances are not where you want them. An incredible, incredible yisod. Reguim ma'od, ne'imim ma'od. I will say life could be pleasant, life could be beautiful, life could even be Gan Eden, even if you're not exactly where you want to be. As long as the person accepts the hashkafa of Kach Hashem Rotzeh, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, and as a result of that, a person is able to makabel circumstances be ahava. All right, so we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up with Kof Dalid Wednesday in Meretz Hashem. We'll see, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Sure. Just like a Sunday schedule tomorrow. You can still get up. You can still get up. All right, Shabbos, good morning. Good morning. Let's begin. So we are picking up today's daf is Kuf Samech Beis. It's like a dafala today. Dafala. All right. So today's daf is Kuf Samech Beis, 162. We are picking up Kuf Samech Aleph Amud Beis, 161b, second line up from the bottom. A beautiful gemara today. So we'll remember again. So this parak of Get Pashit is exceptionally interesting because although the beginning of the parak was really contrasting the get pashut with the get mukusher. But at the end of the day, we've now seen that we have opened this up to a general discussion about shtaros, which Rabosai goes ahead and opens the doors for many relevant halachas. It's funny. So there was a chassan from the shul yesterday. So after the chuppah, so some of the chaver that was there, when you read the ksuva now, you read Hakol Shor V'Kayim, right? And again, we saw in yesterday's daf about Hakol Shor V'Kayim, ultimately representing not just a nice couple of words, but a very important yisod in the stars. So suddenly, again, everything takes on a brand new relevance. The Gemara says the problem. So second line from the bottom. So second to last line, Kuf Samachala from the base. And I will say the halacha with shtaros is that you have to go ahead and review the document in the last line of the shtar. If you take a look at the Rashbam says the following: Zeu shanu kosim esof hashtar v'kanina min ploni bar ploni le ploni kechol mat kasav umefarish le'el. Shtar would normally be written was there would be a one-line summary of the shtar line. So, for example, the Rashbam is using the example of a loan document. So, in the last line, it would be, and Ruvain ben Yaakov lent to Shimon ben Yosef so-and-so amount of money. You would go ahead and you would review it in the last line. Dahainu, Shemafayu shekofala inyan akasav lemala, Bahai vitzarech sheyachzor haki mafarshin alei, vitzarech shlei kasav b'sof hashtar b'shita achrona shum davar chidish v'shum t'nai shashtar talui ba sheino kasav lemala. Now, both say, now the real point over here at the Gemara is making, now why do I need to review the shtar in the last line? Or why is there a need to do that? At the end of the day, the shtar is written clearly. Why they need to review everything? So both say, it's not as much that we need the review. As we're going to see, it's more the fact that we don't want any new information written in the last lines of the shtar. That's the ikar over here. We want the shtar to close out with the chazara in order that no new information could be inserted in. B'si Gemara says, "Sheinu kasalama lefi shelo nilman mishita achronim k'mefarish lekaman v'nimsa sheis kaim hashtar ha'elyon below atnai v'yigba bo shelo kedin afa pishon is kaim atnai el b'dvarim shelanu tzarpam b'lo mem yisayim shtaro kigom minyana shel shtar u'me'atel nafsel klomim b'lo." Fine. So we're jumping out a little bit. So the Rashbam to the Gemara, so therefore, to go back to the Gemara. So therefore, therefore, again, we go ahead and we review a quick review. The last line of the shtar is a quick review of the contents of the shtar. My time up. So ask the Gemara, why do I need this? Or why do I need this review on the last line? Of us, like Kuf Samech Beis Amud Aleph, Amar Ravamram Lafi Shein Lemeidim V'Shita Achrona. Because what Ravamram says. Because halacha l'maisa, we do not learn anything from the last line of the shtar. Or as I will say, that we do not want the last line of the shtar to contain any new information that would be necessary. And that's why the Rashbam, I read it quickly because we didn't get up to it yet in the Gemara. That's why the Rashbam says, we don't want you putting in any kind of tanai, any kind of condition, or any type of transactionally specific information in that last line of the shtar. Now, we'll discuss why we don't want any new information in the last line of the shtar. But therefore, again, in order to avoid any new information being inserted there, so we always have the last line of the shtar to just simply be a review of that which was previously expressed. Take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Amrav Amram, Lefi she'in lemeidin mishita achrona. So the Rashbam says over here, Mepnei she'in ha'edim yecholun lekariv chasimasan kol kach b'samuch b'sof hashtar. Umanichan revach ben hashtar lechasimasan. We'll say this is so amazing. You see, we'll say what you would normally do is the following. You would normally go ahead, you'd have text, right? You have the shtar. What goes again? Talk about now get pashut. What goes underneath the text? Signatures of the witnesses. So here's the problem. The problem is, ideally, you would want the witnesses to sign mamash like right up against the text in order to avoid what? In order to avoid anyone inserting any additional lines. But pashas, you often can't do that, only because people have different size signatures. And I will say today it's different because we have more pro forma documents. So you can have a lot of, but again, they're writing these things by Sofrim. So lemaisa, again, you can't have the edim writing right up, signing right up against the text. So usually there was some type of space in between there. So because there was some type of space, there was a concern that someone could go ahead and insert some additional information. So how did the Chazal prevent someone from just conveniently writing in another line? They made a rule, and the rule is we don't learn anything from, we don't take into account that which is written in the last line of the shtar. So that even if someone were to go ahead and utilize that empty space between the signatures and the end of the text and write some new Tanai in, so the mice again, we would not pay heed to that Tanai. It's amazing. So Rashbam goes on, he says the following. Umanichin Revach, I'm in the Rashbam, third line down. Umanichin Revach, Ben Ashtar Lechasilaso, Yochola Adam Lazayif, Ulahosif, Ben Sayim, Shita Achos. Therefore, if somebody wanted to forge the document, he could insert in between the text and the signatures. Hilchach, Tikun Rabbanon, Lachsor Me'inyono Shel Shtar B'Shita Achrona, Levilti Sheyichtov V'Davar Hatzarech. So I'll say this way Chazal instituted. Here's what you should do on the last line of the shtar. Just review the document. Why? Because since essentially we'll say that last line is a filler. Why is it a filler? Because you're not learning anything new from it anyway. So just use it as an opportunity to review the major details of the shtar. Levilti Sheyichtov V'Davar Hatzar Shari Im Zayfa V'Hosifa La'achar Zman Ein Anu Mafsidin Klum Im Lo Nilmad Hemenu Shari Kvar Kosov Kol Zet Lemala. Because we'll say if it's just a review and not adding any new information. So then Lemais again, if we don't learn from it, the shtar is not compromised at all. The gam im zaifu, the osifu b'shita sachalak, sha'achar inyono shel shtar, sheb'shita achrona, bein ashtar le'idim, lo ma'alev lo mori, shahari ein lemedin mishita achrona, u'b'she'im kat. So we'll say, so therefore again, if somebody were to go ahead and take advantage of that empty space in between the signatures and the end of the text, and they inserted, right? Ruvain's borrowing $10,000 from Shimon, and Shimon decides to go ahead and add in there some additional clause. I will say it doesn't matter because whatever's written on the last line of the shtar anyway, we don't take into account. Now the Rashbam just points out something very important over here. He says, "Ub'she'im kasu b'shtar sharir v'kayim." So we'll remember again, the Gemara does point out over here that we're dafka talking about a case where it doesn't say sharir v'kayim in the shtar. This is exceptionally important because we'll say if it doesn't say sharir v'kayim, if it says sharir v'kayim, so then l'mais again that clearly ends off the shtar. Therefore, the Rashbam points out over here, and this goes back yesterday. We saw also that there were opinions who did not necessarily say that you require sharir v'kayim. So the Gemara is saying over here, just the Rashbam is pointing out that this shtar also works in a case where they're not writing sharir v'kayim. Fine. So we'll say, so back up. So Rav Aram says, therefore, we review the shtar in the last line in order that no one could put in any additional information. In order that we not go ahead and because we don't learn out anything from the last line of the shtar. Therefore, just in case someone inserted some additional information or some additional t'nai, trying to go ahead and create some kind of forgery, we avoid that issue altogether. So let's listen to this. So Rav Nachman said to Rav Amram, so where do you know this from? Where do you know this idea that we go ahead? So we'll say, remember, there are two concepts over here. So the way the Gemara introduces this concept is b'tzarech sheyachzor minyan shel shtar. So the Gemara is setting it up, Rabbi Osai, as a halacha in shtaros, that the last line of the shtar is always a review of the contents of the shtar. That's how the Gemara is setting this up. Rav Amram comes along and says the reason for that is it prevents forgeries. Meaning, because Rav Amram says coming up like this, we're never going to pay attention to that which is written in the last line of the shtar. That's the principle here. Whatever is written in that last line, we are not going to pay attention to out of the concern that perhaps was an opportunity for someone to insert that in after the names were signed. Therefore, again, we fill the space with the shtar review. We fill the space with the shtar review. So it's not that, I want to be clear, it's not that in principle we need a review of the shtar. We don't need a review of the shtar is right there. But rather, again, it's filler in order to go ahead and prevent any kind of forgery. So Rav Nachman says to Rav Amram, where do you get this from? Where do you get this from? So also listen to this. Amalei Desanya. He said, I got it from the following. Hirchik es ha'idim shnei shitim min aksav, puzzle. Shita achos kasher. Because Shavarim says, because there's a brisa. What does the brisa say? If you distance the signatures of the witnesses 2 lines from the text, so ultimately, again, a document is puzzle, but 1 line from the text, the document is kosher. To also take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Supposed to remember again. This is all presupposing that it doesn't say shara v'kayim in the shtar. Because let's remember again, if it says shara v'kayim, hakol shara v'kayim shtar, then what? Then we'll say, remember, as we saw in yesterday's daf, you never have to worry about anything because hakol shara v'kayim, that statement says we're done. We're done. We've closed out the shtar. There's nothing more to discuss. Anything that's written after hakol shara v'kayim is obviously what? Is obviously a forgery, right? Is obviously added in afterwards. So we'll say, so again, the Rashban just points out over here, we're not writing hakol shar v'kayim. Afilu yesh etim shlono safal davar ziyuf mikol makom hay shtara chaspa ba'amu. Now we'll say, now the Rashban was pointing out something very important. If you leave, Bryce is saying, if you leave 2 lines of open space between the text and the signatures of the witnesses, ultimately, again, the shtar is going to be puzzle. Now, says the Rashbam, this is true even if you know with absolute certainty that there's no forgeries, the shtar is 100% good. Both parties to the shtar agree to the authenticity of the shtar is still not good. Why? It's very important. Why? Because we'll say when it comes to rabbinic law, the halach is we'll say that if you don't toe the line, if you don't go ahead and live by the framework, then ultimately your actions are meaningless. Chazal told us how to write the shtar. If I don't write the shtar in accordance with the framework of Chazal, then what? As Rashbam says, it's chaspa ba'amu. Chaspa means what? It's a pottery shard. It's nothing. So if you depart from the established framework and you leave 2 open lines, then lemais, again, the shtar is not good. See, if you leave 2 open lines, the shtar is puzzle. If you leave 1 open line, the shtar is okay. What's the chilik, says the Gemara? What's the chilik? So the Gemara says, Mashna shnei shitin. Why, if you leave 2 lines open, so ultimately, again, why is the shtar puzzle? Dilma mizayif. Because of shita achos, so the Gemara says, because maybe if you leave 2 open lines, what's going to happen? What's going to happen, I will say, is that maybe someone could insert some additional information after the shtar was already signed. To which the Gemara says, I don't understand. Shita achas nami mezayif v'kasav. But even if he leaves 1 line of open space, someone could come along afterwards and what? Insert some additional information. Havalav shmamina in lemeidin mishita achrona shmamina. Rather, Rabbi said, what do you see? You see that we do not learn from the last line of text in a document. And therefore, Allah will say, if ultimately, again, there's 1 empty line left, and someone decides to put a forgery of text in there, I mean, I'm not going to say it's okay, it's not okay, but it doesn't impact anything. Why? Because we don't pay attention to the last line of text, because Rabbi said in any shtar, we always recognize that that last line could have been added. Why? Because there's always inevitably a space between the signatures and the text itself. Therefore, we do not go ahead and learn from the last line. That's why in a normal shtar, the way we'll use up that space of the last line is how? Is to go ahead and do a review of the shtar. But I just tell you something beautiful. In Sefer Ikarim, Rav Yosef Albo writes the following. He says that we actually learned this concept from Moshe Rabbeinu. So what's the pshat? He says, listen to this. Shehiskir Moshe v'sof parshas Ha'azinu kisherotza lachtom haTorah amar simu levavchem l'chol hadvarim asher anochi meid bachem hayom. So we'll say, ultimately, again, what does Moshe Rabbeinu do? In Parshas Ha'azinu, Moshe Rabbeinu is machzir me'inyono shel shtar b'shita achrona. So we'll say, Parshas Ha'azinu is Moshe Rabbeinu's official last speech to Klal Yisrael. And what does Moshe Rabbeinu do in Parshas Ha'azinu? He effectively reviews the Torah in its entirety. The Sefer Ikarim goes on, he says, Ki lo davar reiku mikem, ki hu chayechem, u'bedavar hazeh tarichu yomim al ha'adam, v'zeh ki Moshe l'chol shtar kiyum davar, tzarech sheyachzor minyono shel shtar b'shita achrona. So we'll say, just like the Sefer Ikarim says something so beautiful, just like in every shtar, you have to use the last line to review all that which was written in the shtar. Kach kasav Moshe alav hashalom dekan dvarim halalu Lirmos al shnei mine aschar hamusagim mitzad Torah. Haschar haruchni v'haschar hagashi. So without going into the whole thing, but he says so beautifully that Parshas Ha'azinu is merames to the fact that Torah gives us, Shabbos say, life in this world, and Torah gives us life in the next world. That is the essence of Torah. With Torah, Bosa, you have a meaningful existence here, and you have an eternal existence in Olam Haba. That's the essence of the Torah in its entirety, and Moshe Rabbeinu reviews those concepts in Parshas Ha'azinu. So beautifully, the Sefer HaKaim writes that Moshe Rabbeinu was Mekayim this halacha of tzarich sheyachzor me'inyanav shel shtar b'shit achrona. So beautiful. Bosa, Amud Beis, Ibai Lahu. So the Gemara goes weiter. So raises a kasha. So we'll say, of course, we knew this was coming. So now what we've established is the following. We have a halacha that tells us that we do a chazara, we review the shtar, we review the contents of the shtar in the last line of the shtar. Fine. Therefore we'll say, and why? That is motivated. That review, or I should say, is necessitated by the principle of ein lemeidin mishita achrona. Since we can't learn any new information from the last line anyway, out the concern that perhaps it's a forgery, therefore we just put in a filler, and the review is the filler. Okay? Therefore, we also saw the brisa that said, that's why if the shtar leaves two lines open, then what Rabbi say? What's the status of the shtar if you leave two lines open at the end? Shtar is possible. Why? Because let's remember, what does two lines allow you to do? Two lines allows you to put in one line of forgery, right, and still leave one blank. So you can get away with the forgery at the end of the day, which is problematic. If you leave one line blank, then that's going to be okay, because anyway, whatever you write in that line is inconsequential. To which leads the Gemara to say, okay, no, ibailu shitu me'achtzamai. What about 1.5? What about 1.5 lines open? Right, so what's the status of 1.5 lines? So the Gemara says, Tashma. So we'll say, because we learn. Here, so we'll say, I just want to tell you something also that's very interesting. It's also just a different societal reality. You say to yourself, 1 line, 1.5 lines, 2 lines. Why are we getting into this? Just write a new shtar. So you have to understand, we live in such a disposable society. So understand from the Gemara's perspective, parchment is parchment, right? And people's times, these are not resources that are just automatically renewable and replenishable. So these kind of questions, I just want to be clear. The Gemara is not asking this because like Chazal said, oh man, Kuf Samech Beis Al Aleph was so short, I need some filler information for Kuf Samech. I'm just asking this question. I mean, this is Metzias thicker questions. So Shita Umach Tzamai, what happens if Lamais at the end of the day, I left 1.5 lines blank on the shtar? So I'll say, I know that leaving 1 line blank is okay, 2 lines blank is not okay, passes the shtar. What about 1.5 lines? So the Gemara says, my tashma. So we'll say we learn the following. If a person goes ahead and distances the witnesses from the shtar 2 lines, so we'll say there's 2 lines of open space between the text and the signatures of the witnesses, puzzle. Ultimately, again, I know that such a shtar is puzzle. But we'll say if I go ahead and I leave behind there, I leave over 1.5 lines, kosher. So we'll say, so what the Gemara is suggesting over here is the following. The fact that the previous price has said that if I leave 2 lines open, so ultimately what? If I leave 2 lines open, the shtar will be puzzle. We'll say I could infer from that what? It's only 2 lines that puzzle the shtar, but 1.5 lines ultimately again will be okay. So here's the problem. Ima seifa, but yet look at the end of that brisa. Shita achas kasher. So what's the end of the brisa said that if I leave 1 line open, the shtar is kasher. I could infer from that. Shita achas would be kasher. It's only 1 line that's kasher, meaning 1 open line is kasher. Ha shita umechza pasul. If I went ahead and I left open 1.5 lines, it would be possible. Therefore, says the Gemara, you're right. Ella meha leka lemashba minit. Which the Gemara says, you're right. But I can't learn anything else from this brisa. In other words, I thought I could learn it out from the previous brisa by inferring. The problem is, the reisha, which tells me that 1 line, the reisha that tells me that ultimately, again, the reisha that tells me that shnei shitin is puzzle seems to indicate that shitul mechza is okay, but yet the sefer that says that 1 line is kasher seems to tell me that 1.5 lines will be puzzle. Therefore, the Gemara says, I can't infer any kind of conclusions from the brisa. To which the Gemara says, okay, my havyalah. What is the halacha? What is the halacha if you leave 1.5 lines of open space in a shtar? Is the star good or not? So almost like Tashma. This is actually amazing. The Sanya, Herchik es ha'idim shnei shitim in aksav pasal. If you went ahead and you distanced the witnesses 2 lines from the text, so the star ultimately again will be pasal. Will be pasal. Pachos mikan kasher. We'll see here you seem to have an explicit brisa. The brisa says anything less than 2 lines, ultimately the star will be kosher. Take a look at the Rashbam. The Rashbam says 2nd line from the top, Pachos mikan kosher, dahainu shita umechza. That ultimately, again, I will say, so you infer from this brisa is quite explicit. If you leave 2 lines of open space, then the document will be puzzle. 1.5 lines, the document will be kosher. So as I say, I'll tell you something interesting. There's the Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer brings up an interesting kasha when it comes to Lechem Mishnah. So when it comes to Lechem Mishnah, I'll quote you. It says the Chassam Sofer in Arach Chaim, Siman Mem Vav, quoting from the Minchas Yaakov, that the Minchas Yaakov writes that for Lechem Mishnah, it would be enough if one had 1.5 loaves. 1.5 loaves. So why? Because the Minchas Yaakov seems to be indicating that Lechem Mishnah doesn't have to mean 2 whole loaves. Rather, it means 2 things. 2 things. Lechem Mishnah said anything more than 1 loaf, by definition, is going to satisfy the criteria of Lechem Mishnah. So the Chassam Sofer deals with this, and he says something interesting. So he quotes this. He says, "Heavy Minchas Yaakov, the Meikra din hayadai belechem Mishnah, lechem v'chatzi v'lo ba'ishad." So Minchas Yaakov actually paskins that halacha l'maisa for Lechem Mishnah, you don't require 2 whole loaves. Rather, all you need is 1 and some. 1 and some. Quoting from Masechet Brachos, to Kamar of Ashi, Mishamro Palga Hamesh, Mishmar Kamina Bay, Bachanami Lechem Umechza Nami Mikri Lechem Mishnah. Fine. So the Chassam Sofer says, he says, L'chalik dehechi diksivi davar belashon rabim, yeshlomar demiut rabim shnayim, v'kolol gam echad umechza. So we'll say, so interesting that the Chassam Sofer says it depends. When something is written, when something is written or formulated in the plural, so we'll say the basic definition of plural of plurality is 2. But 2 in that context, when it's Lashon Rabim, doesn't have to mean 2 whole things. Plural just means what? More than 1. However, Kevan Shiyosem Echad, Aval Hechi Dichsiv Shnayim, O Mishnah, Im King Vadai She'echad Umechza, Einam Shnayim. So we'll say, interestingly enough, however, the Chassam Sofer says, whenever the halacha demands for shnayim, for 2, 2 always requires what? 2 complete units. 2 complete units. Therefore, so here, again, there's much more to say about this. I'm not going to get into this now. But he writes over here, he says the following. So again, so if when the halacha formulates the need for rabbim, multiple things, so multiple can be 1 plus. That seems to be what the Minchas Yaakov understands. On the other hand, when the halacha demands 2, so 2 by definition requires 2 whole amounts. Now, what's interesting about this is the following. So the Gemara says over here, and again, the Raya from Bosa is over here. The Raya the Chassam Sofer brings is, remember, what does the Brisa say? The Brisa says, Shnei shitim in aksircha egesai edim shnei shnitim in aksav pasal. If you distance the witnesses from the ksav 2 lines, the shtar is pasal. Pachos mikan kosher. The Bosa say, what happens if you distance them 1.5 lines? What's the halacha? It's kosher. Why? Because 2 means 2. Because the Chassam Sofer says that whenever the halacha tells you that you need 2 requires a complete unit of 2. Not 1 and change, but a complete unit of 2. So Shnei Shitim means Shnei Shitim. Lechem Mishnah means 2 loaves. Interesting halacha. Fine. So the Gemara goes weiter. So saying that, so far, let's just understand what we have over here. So you've got number 1. You have to review the shot in the last line, right? You have to have a review of the shot in the last line. Number 2, no new information in the last line, and therefore by extension, no new information in the last line, and therefore by extension, if you have a shtar that has 2 empty lines before the signature, the shtar is chasva ba'alma, it's a pottery shard, it's nothing, it's garbage, it's inconsequential. But if you leave 1 open line, the shtar is kosher, and apparently now, even if you leave 1.5 lines, the shtar will still be kosher as well. Good. Let's go back there. Let's listen to this. You have 4 or 5 witnesses who signed on a shtar. And it turns out that one of the people who signed on the shtar was either a relative to one of the parties to the transaction, or was a puzzle. Or who's someone who's ultimately, again, unable to give edus. Again, when we get to Sanhedrin, we'll discuss this a bit more extensively. He gambles. Or there's a thief, right? Dishonest in business, whatever it might be. He's something that ultimately, again, leads to the apostle like this. So we'll say, so I have enough kosher witnesses on the shtar. I have enough. But Lamaisa, again, there's somebody in there who is a karov or apostle. What's the halacha? Tiskayim eidos bishar. So we'll say the halacha is that I can uphold the document with the other valid witnesses. We'll say, take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Take a look. The Rashbam is a little bit more expensive than what we're going to get to yet, but look at the Rashbam. V'nimtza shnayim mishonim hayu arba chamisha edim chosumin al hashar v'nimtza shnayim arishonim krovim. So we'll say the Rashbam is quoting the gears of the Rabbeinu Chananel. It's a bit different than our Gemara. The Rabbeinu Chananel's version, the first two witnesses who signed were found to be krovim or psulim. So the halacha is ultimately tiskayim ha'idus b'shtar. Perush im haya ben aksav la'idin chala tishir shnei shitin umili makom ha'chalat b'krovim ha'shtar. So it's like the Rashbam is understanding this case to be a continuation of the previous case. What he's saying is like this. The silver ended the shtar, and what happens? There's blank space there. I will say, I want to use this shtar, so I don't want it to be puzzle. If I go ahead and the witnesses only sign below, then what's going to happen? The shtar is going to be puzzle, because any shtar that has two lines of empty space is going to be puzzle. So I have a great chap. What am I going to do? I happen to be with them at a family reunion. I'm going to get some family members just to fill in their signatures over here. I don't need them for edus. I have proper edus on the shtar. I just need their signatures as filler on the shtar. It's incredible. So what happens over here? So the halacha is, I want to be clear. This is not Pasha Pshat in the case. Pasha Pshat, meaning when you read this Gemara, how did you understand it? Again, simple idea. I just have a shtar, and whatever it is, I'm just filling up the space with additional witnesses. Lav dafka that it's connected to the previous case. The Rashbam is connecting them, saying, no, I don't want to leave two empty slots. I don't want to leave two empty spaces there. So I have my relatives sign there. But I'm not having them sign with Torah's Eidos. I'm having them sign ultimately, again, just to close out the empty space. Therefore, again, so just finish the Rashbam, at least part of it. So it says we will see this shtar is kosher, and we will be Mekayim will uphold the shtar through the proper signatures. Fine. So we'll say, so let's go back to the Gemara now for just a moment. So hayu arba v'chamisha idim chasumin al ashtar v'nimtza echa mehem karov apostle tiskayim ha'idus b'shar. Fine. So misayeh le l'chizkiah. And I will say this seems to support the view of Chizkiah. Because what does Chizkiah say? Damar Chizkiah miluhu bikrovim kasha. The Chizkiah says that I will say if you fill up a document with krovim, in other words, I will say if you have a shtar. Now again, the Rashbam tries to understand which exact case is Chizkiah referring to over here. That's really important for our discussion. But the point that Chizkiah is saying is if you go ahead and you have a shtar, and you fill up that shtar with witnesses. In other words, I have my two witnesses necessary to go ahead and uphold the shtar. But it happens to be that I go ahead and I fill up the shtar just with other signatures, just in order literally to fill up the document. The halacha is that the document is kosher. Document is kosher. So the Gemara says, Va'al tatamo. Now, I will say, here's what's fascinating. If you go with the Rashbam's understanding, I will say, I'll tell you something that's amazing, which is, according to Chizkiah, let's play this out. If I have a shtar, let's go with Rashbam, that this case is a continuation of the previous case. So what did we establish previously? I write a shtar, there's two lines of open space. What's the halacha? Puzzle. So now Chizkiah comes on, Chizkiah comes along and says, listen, this is a very easy remedy. What's the easy remedy? Just fill up the empty space with signatures, even of people who are not good witnesses. So we'll say, isn't that interesting? That here, empty space will puzzle the shtar, yet signatures of puzzle witnesses will validate the shtar. It's just an interesting dynamic. Now, I will say it's intuitive. Why? Because the goal over here, I will say, is what? To avoid forgeries. So to avoid forgeries, whether you're signing your relatives or you start drawing pictures, it doesn't make a difference. The point over here is that we want that space filled in. So therefore, again, I've also said the novelty that's being expressed over here is empty space is worse than invalid signatures. So the Gemara says, I've also said, just so you understand, again, we're going back, but the Rashbam points out there's another interesting yesod over here, which is the novelty here, we'll say, is when you have, let's say, 5 witnesses, we'll call it 4 witnesses signing on a shtar. 2 of them, I will say, are my relatives, and therefore pasul for edus. Now remember again, one of the principal concepts by edus is edus shebat la mitzasa bat la kula. That I will say, when witnesses sign on something or they testify to something, they're considered to be one cohesive testimonial unit, which then means what? That as soon as one is disqualified, then what? The whole unit is disqualified. Both said the novelty is that does not apply over here. In a situation where it's clear that the extra signatures of my witnesses are not there for testimonial purposes, but are rather only there for what? Filler purposes, then halacha lamaisa, again, their presence in no way undermines the effectiveness of the shtar. Now, look what the Gemara says. This is amazing. Look at the Rashbam. So listen to this. So says the Gemara, and don't be bewildered by this idea that if the space is empty, the shtar is going to be pasul, but yet if there are pasul witnesses there, the shtar is going to be kosher. You might say, because I'm going to tell you that we find this dynamic answer. We'll say, this is amazing. Share. We'll say, this is very exciting. You know why? After Sukkah, we're about to learn about Sukkah. Right? Like I said, Erev Shabbos. It's almost Elul, which is almost Rosh Hashanah, which is almost Sukkot. Right? And here, look at this. Right? We get to feel this now a little bit. We get to sit in the Sukkah together for just a few moments. So you might have Abir Sukkah. And we'll say, airspace. Airspace in the Sukkah, we'll say, listen to this. Abir Sukkah, post B'Shlosha. We'll say, the halacha is, if you have more than 3 tefachim of open space in your schach, that invalidates the schach. Right? More than 3 tefachim. Less than 3 tefachim, we'll say, we rely on what? Lovely. Right? If it's less than 3 tefachim, halacha Moshe Messiah says, let any space less than 3 tefachim is considered to be closed. So if you have 3 tefachim or more of open space, that invalidates the schach. Yet, let's say, listen to this. Yet, schach pasul posel ba'arba. Yet, I will say, amazingly enough, if you have schach pasul, right, let's say I have schach, in the middle of my schach, I have some schach pasul. So we'll say this again. By the way, this can happen all of the time. Where a person has schach, and then I have some open spaces, I want to fill the open space with schach pasul. But I say schach pasul, invalid schach, only invalidates a sukkah at a shear of what? Dalid tvachim, 4 tvachim. Isn't this interesting? Open space, ultimately again invalidates with 3 tvachim. Yet pasul schach only invalidates ultimately again with 4 tvachim. So I'll say there's a lot to be said about this as well. Meaning the yesod is that the most important thing in life is ultimately to fill the spaces, to fill the gaps. Sometimes you can't always fill the gaps initially with the right things. But the empty space in life, the voids in life, I will say, sometimes the most destructive and most harmful things. We'll see this expounded on a bit more in just a bit. So we'll say the idea over here is what? That we see that halacha ma'isa, sometimes that which is empty presents a greater challenge than that which is filled with psul. So the nice again, same thing. So the same way that schach, abir, pasels with gimel tvachim, the schach pasel is dalet tvachim. So we'll say same thing over here. The shtar itself could become pasel with 2 lines of empty space, but you could go ahead and you could add in the relatives, and as long as you're just filler, it doesn't invalidate the shtar. So let's just do one more line. Iboilu shnei shit and shamru. We'll say these 2 lines that we spoke about. So we'll say the one thing that everybody agrees with is 2 lines of empty space in a shtar ultimately will invalidate the shtar. So shnei shit and shamru. Hein top of kuf samach gimel. Hein va'aviron. So we'll say, remember again, each line of Osai, a line has its line, and then there's a little bit of space in between each line. So when we say that 2 lines of empty space pasal the shtar, so we'll say, is that just the 2 actual lines of text, or is that the 2 lines with the corresponding space in between? So the Gemara So it doesn't include the space in between the lines or not. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak mistabra dehein va'aviran. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says it's mistabra. It seems to be clear that it's both the lines as well as their airspace. Why? Because I'll say ultimately again, if you want to say that it's just the lines without the space in between the lines, then shita achaz v'lo avira l'maychad. Then I will say again, one line without its corresponding space, right in between. What good is that going to be? And also we know that one line of empty space ultimately is going to be kosher. Elo shmamina hin va'aviran shmamina. Right? And I learned from here that what? That when we say that two lines of empty space passel in a shtar, ultimately again it's not just the two lines, but rather it's the two lines and the corresponding space in between the two lines. Right? So we'll stop over here. We'll pick up with our Shabbat tomorrow. Just a reminder, tomorrow is a legal holiday, so it is a Sunday schedule. So again, first meeting is 7:15. That will follow the first meeting approximately a few minutes before 8 o'clock.